more that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place.
Well, hello, friends. It's Tuesdays live at 5, August 25th on social media, where we are broadcasting on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Welcome all. On Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we look at everyday interactions, everyday situations through a crisis de-escalation lens, try to offer some meaningful tips, ideas, ways to deal with situations to reduce tension, de-escalate crisis, and restore relationship. Welcome all. Great topic. In fact, I've even noticed a couple of others. This is Maverick, my Labradoodle. A couple of others are talking about this lately as well. I think that maybe it's hitting people in the algorithms, talking about defensiveness, why people get defensive, and what do we do about it? How can we manage the presentation of someone's defensiveness, or what can we do if we're feeling defensive? It is a pretty palpable experience. So we'll use the principles that we rely on routinely here at Jumpstart to communicate our thoughts on this matter, and hopefully you'll find them useful. I'm also looking at myself in the monitor here, and I'm wearing my Orion Watch Community Outreach Program shirt. We just had a tremendous back-to-school bash this past weekend in Thurston County. Literally thousands of people attended, all in the service of supporting an organization that's very invested in second chances and the reentry of people from in carceral settings to community, and really reaching across partisan lines to bring people together to help one another in that effort. Everybody deserves second chances. Everybody deserves an opportunity to reintegrate to community. So I'm very proud to be on the board of that organization, and Jumpstart is a proud supporter of the work there. In fact, we even do some work in corrections agencies with people who are reentering community to help them with communication skills, navigate the world, navigate situations that perhaps previously would cause them to wind up back in the system if they didn't handle it well. And this is certainly to that end an appropriate discussion. Why do people get defensive? Why do you get defensive? I know why I do. And just because I feel it doesn't mean I have to act on it. But let's talk a little bit about defensiveness. What is being defended? If we're feeling defensive, what is it that we're defending? Are we defending our persona? You know, the mask, the presentation of us that we automate and animate out in the world? Are we defending that? Are we defending our sense of safety and self-respect? Are we defending ourselves from injustice perceived? The first thing I'd say is that the nervous system's interpretation of a stimulus from another human being that causes me to feel defensive is something that needs to be immediately checked. Very often I have felt the impulse, and thank goodness I've acquired the skills and experiences over the years to recognize that I can observe that without necessarily doing anything about it. Now, that doesn't mean that I still don't feel sometimes the intensity of the impulse. In fact, I felt it this morning when reading an email. And I've learned some things along the way in managing impulses that cause me to feel the need to defend something. The first thing I try to do, and I would encourage anybody to do, is to determine if there is discretionary time. In other words, if you do not have to do anything responsively right now, don't. Just sit with it. Don't fire off the email. Don't verbalize the reactive statement that your mind formed very, very quickly. Just sit with it. It's an emotional state that is the product of the kinesiology of fear, as Tony Blauer would say. The sensory thalamus has picked up on something. It's sent a signal to the amygdala. The amygdala has sent a signal out to produce glucose, adrenaline, and cortisol. Your emotional arousal intensifies. When that happens, the diversity of thought and expression diminishes, and we have less executive options under those conditions. If I have the discretionary time to not do anything, I am going to allow my body to process what just happened to it. And as my regulation is restored, I will then consider to what degree and in what way am I going to respond to the thing that caused me to feel defensive. That's a big deal. You've probably heard it summed up in cliches. You get a bad email, don't respond until tomorrow. You get a bad phone call or voicemail, don't respond until tomorrow. Why is that? Because I think everybody would agree that in some cases, minutes, better, hours after an event, you might feel more in control of your thoughts to render an opinion that doesn't get you in trouble, that doesn't put you in trouble. How often have you sent an email out from a spirit of feeling defensive but right and find out that's come to bite you later? As I age, I've got plenty of those. Plenty. They happen less frequently as I age and as I immerse myself in these principles. But let's look at the other side of the coin, and that's the one we're really interested in today. What can we do, even if we are responsible for saying something or doing something that caused another human being to become defensive and we see it? Well, I'll tell you what the worst thing is to do. Start consequencing or trying to control that person as it's happening. Has someone ever tried that with you? Has someone ever tried consequencing or controlling you upon the presentation of defensiveness? How did you deal with it? I've never dealt with that well. In fact, it's made my defensiveness worse. Yet, we will do that over and over again, particularly in our human services settings, when someone is presenting discontrol or dysregulation. We can fall into a pattern of demanding that someone regain self-control right now to overcome their state of defensiveness. It is the least helpful suggestion that one can make to someone who's feeling that way. So what do we do instead? We've got someone in front of us who's acting defensively. Maybe they're even acting entitled as a result of their defensiveness. They're animating anger, and we got to deal with this. What do you think our prescription is going to be here at Jumpstart for something like that? The first thing we're going to do to diffuse the situation is demonstrate to their nervous system, even if we have enforcement responsibility of something, that we are not a threat, that we are not a source of risk, that we are not an instrument of their goal being blocked or their expectation being violated. That's the first thing we have to do. How do you do that? How do you message someone instantly, I'm not a threat? Even if you've said something that in retrospect you say, I wish I said that differently because now this person is defensive, is to immediately account for it through validation. Whoa, look, I can see that what I just said made you angry. And with me even. My intention was to speak to the rule that was driving what I wanted you to know. If you'd allow me a moment to re-explain myself, perhaps I can make clearer what I'm trying to provide here. That way you might be willing to consider it a little bit better. What might be an OFNR for someone like that? An OFNR is an observation, feeling, need, request. I can see that what I said, and maybe even the way I said it, is upsetting to you. I feel awful that I might have made a mistake in articulating myself, and I need to be clear in my duty here to pass on information. Would you be willing to allow me to start over? That way we might get off on a better foot. That's one way to potentially disarm or diffuse defensiveness. The point here is that we have to get around the nervous system circuitry that someone has had activated by you or someone else. The nervous system circuitry that is responsible for the fear and emotional arousal kinesiology. That kinesiology and psychology results in reduced diversity of thought and expression, being in what would be qualified as an unsafe social state. And now I have to deal with that. I have to deal with the observation that someone's ability to manage complex thought is diminished. So if I have any chance at managing the presentation of someone else's defensiveness, I must adapt what I am doing and how I am presenting to get around that nervous system barrier that they have put up. And in order to do that, I have to show it that I'm not a threat or a risk. And that doesn't mean that I'm abdicating, I'm offloading my sense of duty to enforce something. It just means that in order for me to render influence, I have to get around the risk circuitry. I'm going to do that with validation statements. If I were sitting here with Jack or Gary, our hostage negotiation icons of influence friends, they would say, yeah, you'd be beginning with the active listening skills. That's exactly right. We would be using reflection statements or mirroring statements or minimal encouragers, maybe even the use of I statements like I just exampled before. We would be doing a bunch of things to reduce demand on the nervous system of the other person. And reducing demand is not my idea. We hear that extensively with Andy McDonald's low arousal approach, reducing demands. How do you deal with someone living with disabilities or living with autistic experience who's in crisis? You reduce demand immediately. Why? Complex thought is not online. How we expect people to engage in complex thought when we're angry is the first thing. Is our own discomfort with witnessing it. We want to avoid our own discomfort with someone else's presentation. And as a result, we start placing demands on them. You have to calm down. You need to calm down. Back up. Drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife. What if they don't drop the knife? You may still have to talk to them. What if they don't drop the rifle? You may still have to talk to them. What if they don't drop the detonator? You may still have to talk to them. What if they don't take the electrical cord off their neck that they're trying to get you to do something by threatening self-harm? You may still have to talk to them. Reduce demands on the nervous system of the other person. If you're witnessing this, change your language to statements that let someone know that they're seen, heard, and understood. If you made a mistake, own it. Try an I statement. It would appear that I said something in a way that may be responsible for this. I'd really love an opportunity to restate it. That way I might be more clear. That's the first thing that's got to get cleared out. And you may say, well, what a pain that is. Can't someone just be told to stop what they're doing? Yeah, but, Let us know how that works for you. We know how that works in most cases, and it doesn't particularly well. Now, you can suppress somebody. You can control them. You think that's going to engender understanding and collaboration? No. We see it with kids all the time in youth settings. Kid begins to animate themselves in a way that's not working in the environment. Adults immediately begin consequencing and control statements, which often leads to the kid going further into crisis. Like, that's the majority. Now, if you get a kid that complies with you, with your control, maybe you can say to yourself, I made that go away. For now, there's no appreciation that kid has for the way you did it. And they're waiting for the next opportunity to present it. They're going to present it the same way, in fact. And when they do, I don't know why you would be surprised. At some point, we have to be willing to meet people the way they present. I heard someone say something in a class in Arkansas last week where it was 110 degrees and 80% humidity. We need to meet people where we want them to be at. We need to meet people in a regulated state, modeling where we want them to become. That means we have to accept the bullshit. We have to accept the bullshit of their nervous system, their anger. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Doesn't mean I'm endorsing it. And it definitely is not reinforcing it by not being angry back. Anyone who thinks that it is weak to be anything other than reactive and suppressive in response to someone's anger or aggression is someone who routinely has problem in relationship. Someone has to be willing to stand there, often as we say, like a lighthouse, and let that go. My sense of self is not going to be determined by statements of your disrespect. I have self-respect. You can say whatever you want to me. My needle's not going to move. Where that becomes difficult is in our most intimate relationships, where we are most vulnerable. So let's end on this. What do you do when someone close to you gets defensive? I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's not without its challenges, but I'll tell you what won't work. Letting your intimate partner know when they get defensive how caustic the way they're presenting is to you. Doing that right now in the crisis while they're defensive, letting them know how what they're doing sucks is not the best practice. Yet, do we do that? Whoa, what are you talking to me that way for? Who am I? I didn't do that. Is that tension reducing when you hear that? The fuck did you say that to me for? Does that de-escalate someone else? Consider OFNR, observation, feeling, need, request, or VDSP, validate, defer, suggest, prompt, the next time somebody gets defensive with you, and let us know how it goes. Hope you got something out of this. All the best to all of you. We'll see you on Thursday, where I think it's Candace in the network at jumpstartmastery.com, always talking about something exciting. Take good care.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
More that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place.